Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Cowboys Overtime here on StarTelegram.com. I'm Fort Worth Star Telegram columnist Mac Engel. He's Clarence E. Hill Jr. out in Oxnard, California, where it's approximately 64 degrees. Clarence, why don't you tell the good people here on Cowboys Overtime, brought to you by Window Nation, what your problem is these days? The big one, not me.
My problem is that I'm out in California in this 60-degree temperature this morning and at evenings, and I'm sick. I have a summer cold.
That's
I have all that junk on my throat. It's just, I mean, I know you guys feel for me at 110 degrees heat, but going from the 80 degrees in the daytime and getting sunburn to the cool temperatures at night is taking its toll on my body.
I got you do it. Well, you're getting older. We're all getting older.
Syrup, you know, I'm just trying. I got aspirin. I'm just trying to make it work, man. I'm trying to survive.
Well, I mean, if it makes you feel any better, you have our prayers, thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers.
As you battle
thoughts and prayers.
Challenging conditions out there in Southern California. Clarence, last night I took my dog for a walk at about 10 o'clock at night, and I got a sunburn at 10 o'clock at night. Yeah, I did. I don't know how I did it.
Where was the sun? I'm just trying to.
It was out. I don't even know. It was dark.
Or sunburn?
No, it was dark. So I gotta, I don't know how you do it. It's that hot right now. But Clarence, you are going to brave the hellish conditions of Southern California for a few more days before you fly back to Dallas-Fort Worth to drive your daughter down to Rice University for your second college freshman kid drop-off. Now that you've done it one time, are all the emotions and sentimentality stripped of the moment? Are you like, here, go, bye, I love you, call me, or don't call me?
No, it's a different kid, so it's a different experience. And they both react to me differently, and they both react to situations differently. And my oldest child, she was a dad's girl, and so she wanted me there. This youngest, sometimes she wants me around, sometimes she doesn't, depending on her mood. But she wants to ride with me, so we're gonna drive down together on Thursday morning and just spend some time and really enjoy our last few days together before she goes to college, and I'm an empty nester. But so it's gonna be great. It's gonna be fun. But yeah, she's excited about going to Rice, and she's her and her mom. It's the same story. It's just the same damn story. They got too much stuff. Too much stuff. I remember going.
I don't want to go down.
When I took my oldest to DC as a freshman, we shipped stuff up. Too much stuff. I had to bring stuff back on the plane. There's stuff you can't put in the room that's not big enough to put.
Hang on. So because I remember when you first visited her, because I was with you on that road trip to Howard.
Yeah. When
you went up a couple days earlier, maybe you went to New York and drove down. Anyways. Did you have to fly crap back on that trip?
Yeah, I don't remember. I've flown crap back, yes. I've flown crap back for sure. And so now we're driving, and they got like 6 trunks full of stuff. And it's not going to fit in the room. It's not.
Does she have a roommate?
Not. Huh?
Does she have a roommate?
She does have a roommate.
How are they going to fit all that?
So I know
she's bringing a roommate leaving.
I'm gonna bring half the stuff back to Dallas. I know it. It's just the bane of my existence. I'm just trying to mentally prepare, not mentally. And I took my oldest daughter, we were in her room. She was decorating her room for 6 hours. I'm not doing that. I was putting up stuff, closets. We're not doing it. I'm sorry.
Before we get into the Cowboys stuff, I'm going to read you this. So San Diego State University, on its social media accounts.
I saw that.
You saw it. So I'm going to read it.
I saw that.
Okay, so it says, attention freshmen who are moving in tomorrow. A little request. When your mom wants to unpack all of your clothes and make your bed, let her. When your dad wants to introduce himself to all of the people on your floor, let him. When they want to take pictures of every move you make this weekend, let them. If they embarrass you or act crazy, let them. As you start the new chapter of your life, they are also starting the new chapter of theirs. And believe it or not, this is probably more difficult for them than it is for you. So let them treat you like their baby one last time. Welcome to the Aztec family. Is this true?
Very much so. Very much so. They don't, Dad, go away, and you're trying to appreciate the moment, nostalgia of the moment. And I tell you, I always tell, we did this throughout the senior year. She's like, Dad, leave me alone. I'm trying to senior year. You're going to want, when you're 40, you're going to want these pictures, okay? You're going to want this stuff that you don't want to take pictures of now. All the gymnasts, you're going to want these pictures.
Yeah, you're right.
Doing this for you.
Yes. Well, the difference now is because we can take a picture of everything is that we've just deluded ourselves with not just the moment, but every moment of the moments.
Yes.
And the reason why I'm at, because I remember when my mom and dad didn't drop me off at college. I'm the youngest of 6 kids, and we had all gone to college. So they'd already done it before, like 5 times. So when I needed to go to school, Dad drove me out, and I love my dad dearly, but when he did it, there was no sentimentality. It was like, okay, good luck, bye. So it took me about 24 to 36 hours to get acclimated to it. And then when I did, I was ready to go. But I have a feeling when my daughter, who's starting a freshman year in college or freshman year in high school, that'll be totally different.
Listen, we love our dads in that generation, but if he had girls, it'd be different.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that
you got a daughter, and there's no you're not just dropping it off.
Nope, you're absolutely right.
That diva you got will be doted on to the last minute.
Most likely you are right. Speaking of divas, the person we're going to talk about right now is anything but. So the big news in the NFL over the weekend was, of course, Hall of Fame induction ceremonies, and 2 Dallas Cowboys went in. Veteran Chuck Howley got in, which is long overdue. And most recently, DeMarcus Ware. He played most of his career with the Dallas Cowboys before he finished it up with a Super Bowl in Denver. And I think most people would agree of all the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies, there's usually one every year that blows everybody away. I remember LaDainian Tomlinson several years ago. He was the big winner. Jerry Jones did a great job. He's just so damn funny. But DeMarcus Ware's speech took down the house because he talked about a period in his life that he had never talked about before, specifically a moment when he was a kid growing up in Alabama when he had a gun shoved in his face. And he said at that moment in his life, he deliberately made the attempt to go in a different direction, away from the surroundings and the trappings that unfortunately were with him there as a kid. Clarence, you know DeMarcus really well. I know him okay. Did you have any idea that he was exposed to something this traumatic when he was a kid?
Yeah, and it was actually when he was in college.
College.
It was in college, but
that's right. He was.
No, I mean, he's never told that story. And we've all been talking about it. I've talked to DeMarcus many times. Several of us have done, Hall of Fame stories. Talking about the inspiration. He never brought it up, and so he was saving that for himself. It's like the stuff with his dad. He's really never talked about that.
Yeah, that was another one. And he had his dad there.
We talked to Jerry yesterday, and he said Jerry said he pointed out in the crowd and said, "You see that man right there? That's the 3rd time I've seen him in my life. That's my dad." And so he was great. He was authentic. He was real. It was very moving. And you put that on top of his, national anthem performance. He had a great weekend. I mean, he sang the national anthem on Thursday.
Yeah, that's right.
For the Hall of Fame game. It was just a great weekend for DeMarcus Ware on the center stage. And as Jerry said many times, he's a Hall of Fame player, but he's a Hall of Fame person. He's a great person.
Yeah,
and so you feel good about, his experience and what he accomplished, and certainly, and that speech was one of the all-time greats. And we've seen some Cowboys have some great speeches. You talk about Jared, you talk about LaDainian Tomlinson, Mike Irvin had one of the greatest speeches.
Yep.
And Emmitt Smith had a great speech, and Troy had a great speech, and this goes right up there.
Chuck Howley got in. Obviously, there will be future Cowboys down the line, but anytime the NFL, the Pro Football Hall of Fame induction ceremony weekend comes and goes, question is always, well, who's next? I think anybody who's ever met former Dallas Cowboys safety Darren Woodson would lobby hard for Darren Woodson, and he's been a fringe guy. Clarence, do you think Woody's going to get in?
I hope he does. He should get in. I mean, he's there. There's several safeties in the Hall of Fame, and Woody's every a bit as good as or better, and he should be in there. So Woody's certainly at the top of the list. I think Everson Walls certainly is the guy who should be in and should be on that list, and I think he'll get in at some point with the seniors committee, but he should be on that list. Just as far as guys who are going to come up, Jason Witten is a no doubter. When his time comes up, there's no question about that. And then we'll see. I mean, there are a number of former Cowboys, I think, who merit consideration. I really think, you go back to the 90s and we celebrate all those 90s teams, and everything about the 90s team. Everybody's in. And the foundation of that team was that offensive line. And nobody from the offensive line is in. And Larry Allen doesn't count because he was not a part of those first 2 Super Bowls. And that last one, I don't even think he played it. So he was drafted in 94, but I don't think he played much in the 95 game. So
Would it be Eric Williams?
Well, I would say Nate Newton.
Nate,
and I would, Eric or Nate, and I would say if you look at just the list of Pro Bowls and list of accolades, Nate Newton has the most accolades of anybody on the offensive line. He should be in the Ring of Honor. He should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if the off the field issues that he had after his career is going to, has derailed that that momentum. I don't know if he was ever the best of the group, because Stepnoski was one of the best. Eric Newton, when he was in his prime, was one of the best, up there. But somebody should represent that group, and I think it should be Nate Newton.
We're talking about Darren Woodson. I remember one year at Cowboys camp, Rick Gosselin, the Hall of Fame member himself, from retired sports writer at the Dallas Morning News, who was one of the 2 voters from the Dallas-Fort Worth market in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, along with our former colleague, Mother Football, Shereen Williams. He showed me, he had on a spreadsheet, a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, all these different candidates, and he broke them down by position. And I remember this vividly. He had the safety position broken down, Clarence, and it was all these guys, and they were good. They were great players. None of them were in. And his point, he said, this is just a position that's extremely hard to get in. Now, maybe that's changed a little bit. I remember asking Bill Belichick about this because Bill was on the veterans, 75th anniversary, 100th anniversary selection committee. And he talked about it. And he even said, I don't know why. He was very nice about it. And he was a little baffled. So when you look at Woody, and Woody's a great guy, which I think helps. I don't think people really value, if you're a good guy to the voters and to media, it just helps. It's just natural. But I think that might be Woody's biggest challenge. It's not that he wasn't worthy. It's just the position. It took a long time for those guys to get in. But go ahead.
Yes, but there are guys at that position who have gotten in recent years.
That's what I think.
And again,
John Lynch, Brian Dawkins,
and just like I talk about the offensive line, those 90 Super Bowl team deserves another defender, because the defense, not only was the offense number 1 in the league, the defense was number 1 in the league, and certainly Dion is in, but he only played on one of those teams. Charles Haley is in. The other person who should represent that defense, a championship defense, and it's not just sentimentality. His numbers suggest he finished the team's all-time leading tackler. He made 4 or 5 Pro Bowls, and just like some other guys who got in ahead of me, who are already in, and here's the guy who not only can play safety, but he covered Jerry Rice and Scott. His versatility, he should be in. It's a shame that the defense, the core of that defense that won 3 Super Bowl titles, only has one person in there, and that's Charles Haley. Darren Woodson should be the other person on that team, on that defense in the Hall of Fame.
I agree with you, and it speaks to that team's depth, the fact that they could just rotate guys, guy after guy after guy. And that was pre-salary cap era, but they could, and that was a tremendous team. All right, speaking of Hall of Fame, the Dallas Cowboys have at least one surefire Hall of Famer on their roster right now, although he's not on the team, and that's Zach Martin. Zach Martin, the veteran guard, is holding out at the cost of $50,000 a day, a fine that you and I both know he will not pay.
No, he will pay it. He will pay it. He will not. It's NFL rules. They cannot.
They're going to structure when he comes back. They're going to structure the contract to accommodate for that loss. There's no doubt in my mind. So let's go on. Who cares about that? He's going to be signed with the team for week 1. Let's go on to the other guy who's probably going to be a Hall of Famer, because this guy is the second coming of Lawrence Taylor, but he's not LT. Well, he's close. Micah Parsons, the baddest man in the NFL. If not, he's up there. He wants to be in the Deion Sanders wing of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Deion, in his nonstop motor mouth, says that there should be an upper elite room of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And clearly Deion would be a part of it. And Micah Parsons wants to be that. Now, that's never going to happen, but I actually think Deion has a point. Too many guys get in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Micah wants to be a part of that. NFL Network came out with its recent player rankings. Micah was ranked 9th. Pretty good. I can't really argue with that ranking. And he says he's better than Lawrence Taylor. A little slow. I don't know about that one. Not yet. He's good. But why is Micah? Okay, so let's have this debate. I'm like, Micah Parsons is awesome. He ain't LT. I'm sorry.
Micah's point is that he can cover the pass as well as rush the quarterback. He covered backside the backfield, which he thinks Lawrence Taylor didn't do, which Lawrence Taylor actually did. He has a few interceptions and touchdowns. I just think that's some recency bias and him not paying attention to everything that Lawrence Taylor did, because he's known so much as a great pass rusher. And we see the clips of him as a pass rusher more than anything. But Micah's great. And God bless Micah, because every time he talks, he gives us something to write about. And it's always something. And we asked Micah McCarthy about it. He said it just tells you what drives him. It's not, it's funny, but this is thinking within the soul. He wants to be the best. He wants to be the best of the best. When he talked about the upper room, he said, I want to be in the conversations like NBA with Kobe and LeBron and Michael Jordan, being the greatest of the greatest. That's what I want to be. That's what I want to be known as, And so you look at what he's done, and it's not just him talking, it's him putting work to action. He really has, the scary part is he didn't know how to pass rush as a rookie. He did not pass rush a lot at Penn State. He was just going on strict athleticism. Yeah. He has learned how to pass rush, learned how to be a football player, learned how to do those things. He's really worked really hard in the offseason to improve his game. And he's been so dominant training camp.
I saw the clip. Either you had it or somebody else of him abusing Tyron Smith. And I felt like part of me was watching. I'm like, why do they even have Tyron out there? Like, you don't need to. Like, why do they even have him? Why is even Micah out there at this point? Like, what are you going to prove? And I did. I felt bad for him. A couple of years ago, no, it was last year. I interviewed Micah's high school coach, because high school coaches always have great stories and anecdotes about NFL guys when they were in high school, the Superman type stuff. So I asked him for a couple of anecdotes, and he said the thing that was amazing about him, Mike obviously grew up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He said he really didn't know what he was doing. And what are you going to – how do you coach that? Especially in high school, you got 100 other guys or 50 other kids. He said what people don't realize about Micah is that where he was even better was as a wrestler. And they said he used to, after practice, he would go over to the wrestling mat. He said he would just toy with guys. And it was almost like, I'm sure it was probably emasculating. I'm sure like some of these guys were really good. And here you got walking in from football practice who doesn't even know what he's doing technically. And he said he would just throw guys around. And now here he's throwing around an NFL All-Pro guy in Tyron Smith. He's an amazing player. And I think this window, these next 3 to 4 years, if he's not LT, he's going to be he's going to be right around it. And the thing that impresses me about him, because I think you, Clarence, this is what fans may not realize. A lot of guys, when they get to the NFL or the NBA or NHL or Major League Baseball, it's okay if they're not great. Being good, they want to be secure for the second contract, maybe the third contract in whatever sport. But to be the very, very best, you got to want it bad, because you don't have to do it. If you're good enough, you don't. Michael Parsons doesn't need to do it, but the fact that he wants to do it says a lot, and it gives him a chance to be the next LT. Okay, we're going to take a break from Window Nation. We'll be right back. Window Nation, take it away.
Window Nation, the star of window replacement and proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, can help you fill the house this season with savings. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and make no payments and pay no interest until 2025. Fill your house for a customized authentic Dallas Cowboys jersey while supplies last. You could even help fill the Cowboys house and win tickets to a game. Visit windownation.com/Cowboys now for details. Call 866-95-NATION. Window Nation, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, thank you very much, Window Nation. Fans, if you put in for that contest where you can win tickets to a Cowboys game, make sure it's a regular season game. Preseason is coming up. No one wants to win tickets to a fake game. Nobody. Okay, Clarence, you're out in Cowboys camp. You have shot video of the absolute tragic horror show that is the kicking situation, a situation that was fine with Brett Maher until late last season, when all of a sudden he couldn't make point after attempts. He's gone, got the yips. Cowboys cut him. They've brought in Larry Moe and Curley as a kicker. Then they cut the guy they liked. Clarence, who's their kicker? I really hope they bring in like a dog just to see what would happen. So who's going to be kicking?
Are you applying for the job?
That's not a bad idea. I could use the extra money. No, think about it. Think about what we could do with the Star Telegram and Window Nation if I make the team as a kicker. Think of the content.
There you go. it's funny because Jerry's always great. So he was trying to make a point yesterday, and I was like, Jerry, why not bring a veteran in? Why not bring a veteran? I mean, it just makes no sense because it's really about going on the cheap. They want a young guy, an inexperienced guy, a guy on the come because they don't have to pay him. They don't really want to pay a veteran. Yep. And he said, "You ever heard of the yipes?"
Did he say yipes?
He said yipes. I mean the yips. The veteran guys get the yips.
No, I think with the Cowboys kicker a lot, especially with Brett Maher and the Tampa Bay game, and
he got the yips.
That was the yipes. That was oh my god, that was the yipes. That's how bad he was. It wasn't even the yips; it was the yipes.
It was the yipes. So they like Brandon Aubrey, a kid from Plano who played soccer at Notre Dame, who's actually been in the USFL the last couple of years, and was really good in the USFL for the Birmingham team. But he's an experienced pro kicker, and he's been okay in camp. He's better than another guy who they cut, and so they're going to give Brandon Aubrey a chance to kick in the preseason, and they can always pull the lever on a veteran, at the end of the preseason once they find out that Brandon Aubrey can't do the job. But my point is, if you're have a chance to be a special football team, why would you go into games, go into the season, not being able to count on your kicker, not knowing that you can count on your kicker? I don't know that there's anything that Brandon Aubrey can do, an inexperienced Brandon Aubrey can do, who's not been great in camp, he's been okay, can make you feel comfortable that at Philadelphia, at San Francisco against the Winds, in the playoffs, that this guy I'm comfortable with him going out there and doing a job, as opposed to guys who have done it, who are on the free agent market.
Just out of curiosity, I'm not. Please take this question. I'm not being critical. Have you asked Mike McCarthy that?
Yes, we've asked them both that. No, I asked him. He said, Mike McCarthy basically said. Mike McCarthy basically said, this is we're going to do it. We're going to try. At this point, let's give him a chance to kick and see what he can do. But we can always push the veteran option.
All right. I hate the answer, but I get it. I mean, you're right. This is about cheap, and maybe we can find a guy and you can get him for 5 years or 3 years. And
it's a roster thing because most of the veterans can't kick off, and they want a guy who can kick off and kick field goals. But you got Robbie Gould out there, Mason Crosby. Robbie Gould is 40. He's with the 49ers last year, but he's never missed a playoff extra point. He was great last season for the 49ers. He has experience kicking and swirling wins. You know how accurate he would be at AT&T Stadium in a covered situation. I mean, just like Mason Crosby, actually McCarthy's old kicker from Green Bay. You got experience kicking. You're kicking all these years outdoors in Green Bay, and you come in AT&T Stadium and have to kick much of the year. You know how accurate you're going to be.
Clarence, they might open the roof. So that's going to change everything.
Do they ever open the roof?
Okay, so while you were in Houston, I know. I just have this vision of you and your daughter's dorm room with like a hammer and a nail and screws, just cursing both her mom and your daughter under your breath, wasting all this time trying to figure out where all these clothes go that you and I both know she will not wear, and all this crap that she's going to want to unload in about 6 weeks. So that's why I've written down here, preseason game Saturday night against Jacksonville. So I'll be at the game. You will not be. So Clarence, while you are cursing underneath your breath, I'll be at AT&T Stadium watching the Cowboys' first fake game of August. They'll play the Jaguars. Will I see anybody that I actually want to play football on Saturday night?
Well, you won't see Dak Prescott. And Mike McCarthy said there's a chance Dak won't play in the preseason.
That means he's not playing in the preseason.
Yeah, and he's not. We're talking to Jerry yesterday. They look like Jerry's learned just a lesson too. We asked, "Hey Jerry, you okay with Mike saying that Dak's not playing in the preseason?" Well, Mike makes those calls, and if Mike makes those calls. Well, Jerry,
he's the coach. Right?
He's the coach. Mike makes
those
calls.
He's my coach.
Since when, Jerry? Since when does Mike make those calls? Since when don't you make those calls? But I'm glad.
Maybe now. Maybe
he's trying not to step on Mike's toes. Hey, Mike will make that decision. Mike, I have trust in Mike. Who is this?
So who are we going to see?
Huh?
Will we see the rookies? Will we see?
Yeah, you will see the rookies. I'm just.
Okay, no,
you want to see Mozzie Smith. They want to see Mozzie Smith. You want to see the great Deuce Vaughn, the 5'5" dynamo, Deuce Vaughn, who's getting oohs and ahs in camp. Every time he touches the ball, people they're just awestruck by just the sight of Deuce Vaughn running in and out of the way. But yeah, you're going to see those guys. Certainly, you want to see some of these young offensive linemen, see how they fare against people out not named Micah Parsons, the Texas linebacker. DeMarcus Overshawn, who's had a great camp. He looks great, and Micah's taking him under his wing. He had 2 interceptions in Friday's practice.
Dak threw interceptions?
No, it wasn't Dak. Okay. You're just such a hater. Yes, and you will you will see Gallimore, and I don't think Stephon Gilmore is going to play. I don't think you need to see Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore and some of those guys. But basically,
any veteran anybody who's been in the league for 2 or 3 years who makes real money will be on the sidelines scrolling their phones.
Most likely, you won't see Tony Pollard. You won't see Tyron Smith. Most likely, you won't see DeMarcus Lawrence. You don't need to see those guys. You don't need to see them, risking injury in this preseason. You want to see the young guys. You want to see the kicker, okay? You want to see what Aubrey does.
That's it. I'm excited about Brandon Aubrey. This is going to be awesome.
You want to see Kavontae Turpin, as a receiver. He's actually looked good as a receiver, Devontae Turpin.
They're never going to get him the ball, and you and I both know it. They're going to
listen. He's been working with the starters. They're going to get him the ball.
Okay. They're not. They're going to say, you're
not going to see Luke Schoonmaker, most likely the tight end, 2nd round pick, who's been hurt most of camp. He just came off the non-football injury list. He's only going to have like 3 days of practice before then. But one guy to keep an eye on is Jalen Brooks, wide receiver from South Carolina, 7th round pick. He looked great in camp.
This is all Saturday night for me is all about Brandon Aubrey. I want to watch kickers because the rest of these guys, Mozzie Smith, we're not going to learn about any of these guys until week 1 of these guys got anything. And even then, it's probably going to be till week 8. I mean, I'm curious to see Deuce Vaughn. Last time I saw Deuce Vaughn was at AT&T Stadium where he was running around every TCU player and making them look stupid. Ran for like 500 yards and in the overtime win because Sonny Dykes screwed up the 4th down call in overtime. Anyways, Clarence, we got one more topic to talk about here on Cowboys Overtime as you fight back death out there in 68-degree weather. I don't know how you're doing it. Clarence, last week, college football and college sports specifically saw a major shakeup with both Oregon and Washington leaving the Pac-12 for the Big Ten, which triggered Arizona State, and Utah to lead the Pac-12 for the Big 12. Since you're in California, Candy asked, are we not doing Messi? Yeah, I'll talk about Messi here in a minute. But Clarence, since you're in California, again, fighting back what appears to be a 105-degree temperature, did anybody in LA and in Southern California react to this news that the Pac-12, which is a 108-year-old conference, is basically, it might stick around in name, but is basically gone?
I've been embedded in the Cowboys campus. I mostly have Texas guys around me, and I really haven't talked to anybody from California regarding it, and haven't picked up the newspaper or anything like that. Of course, the LA Times don't really have a sports section anymore, but that's a whole other story. But just talking to people, it's the Pac-12's own fault. I mean, they did not see the future. They couldn't see the forest for the trees when Texas and Oklahoma initially bolted to the SEC. They turned their nose up at Texas Tech. They turned their nose up at the Big 12 schools. And we don't want you with us. And now they're nothing. And they're losing a lot of the schools, the Big 12 and certainly the Big 10. And now it's just Cal, Stanford, Oregon State, and Washington. And it's funny that the
Washington
ACC,
State. It's Washington State.
I mean, Washington State.
Yeah, it's a huge difference.
The ACC is looking at Cal and Stanford and poor Washington, poor Washington State, Oregon State. Nobody wants them.
No, and I are you sad about it? I mean, we're both older guys. We grew up on,
I'm sad about the rivalries. I think there's something to say about natural rivalries. Like we lost Texas A&M for a few. Yeah. Those shouldn't go away. There's some natural rivalries and regional rivalries. Just contiguous states and things like that go natural. I don't know how all this is going to go down. So it's sad. It's sad that it's come to this that is driven by the networks. Yep. And college football people in these schools about higher learning got their hands out and just give us the most money. We don't care what it looks like for the softball team or the volleyball team or the track team trying to compete and do track meets across the country, or soccer team, along with what matters most is king football and the goose that laid the golden egg keeps giving us football money, and we'll let everybody else make it.
I am curious because our fearless producer, Kenny Bolden, wanted me to bring this up. So on Sunday night in Frisco, in the Leagues Cup, this is a soccer tournament between MLS teams and the leagues, and a team in the league in Mexico, had a tournament. And originally, when Lionel Messi left his team in Paris Saint-Germain, in late May, early June, he signed with Inter Miami of MLS for like part of the team, part of Apple TV. He got everything because MLS has a salary cap, and that was their end around. Well, when he signed with them, everybody tried to buy tickets for his matches. And he originally was not on the schedule to play at FC Dallas. As luck would have it, Miami, with Messi as a part of the team, is now a really good team. FC Dallas is pretty good, and they both advanced to the round of 16 on Sunday night in the Leagues Cup in Frisco. So I went up there along with our colleague Lawrence Dow, along with Amanda McCoy as well. She did a terrific job shooting the night. Clarence, I've seen a lot of soccer players, obviously not the very best ones because they don't play here in the United States, but Messi was amazing. He really was. I mean, he's Magic Johnson with a soccer ball on his toes. But the thing what I wondered about me is it was just such a neat atmosphere. It was 20,000 fans, 200 members of the media showed up for this. And it was an evolution of the sport here in the States that I don't think anybody in 1995 saw coming. Sorry, Candy. It was Chris Torres who was there. I thought Amanda was there. Anyways, thanks a lot for bombing. Way to ruin my mojo. This segment was amazing. But Clarence, I am from, you're over 50, like you're 51-ish.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. When 1995, so at that point, the United States had hosted the World Cup, and they'd had matches in Dallas and all that other stuff. The MLS was in its first year. Would you ever have thought then that the state of the sport would be where it is today?
No, I didn't. I didn't see it coming. I grew up in a small town, and I didn't have soccer.
Did you play soccer as a kid?
No, we didn't play soccer. No, they didn't have soccer. It wasn't a sport in where I grew up in a small town in Texas. I grew up in, so
really?
It wasn't part of my mindset. We knew of Pele and we read stories and stuff like that, but no, soccer wasn't big. It wasn't until I got older and in college and that I started getting into soccer and understanding how big soccer was. But certainly it has grown exponentially, around here in the United States and.
Do you follow it at all? Like when the U.S. women's national team flopped there?
I follow the World Cup. I follow that. I don't really do the MLS and stuff like
Premier
that.
League and all that stuff.
When a guy turns down $750 million, I follow that. I'm like LeBron. Sign me up. $750 million, I'm going.
So this is what I said. There are a legion of sports fans, probably over the age of 45, who still don't like soccer. They think it's a waste of time, blah, blah, blah. Clarence needs to go to practice. This is what I want to say to you people who don't think soccer, it's legitimate. Now, and it's not always compare it against what it was, not against the NFL, not against these embedded sports that have been around for 100 years. Compare it against what it was. Compare to what it was 25 years ago. It's amazing where it is. Okay, Clarence, you got to go to practice. Feel better. Enjoy your trip to Houston. My best to you and your family as your daughter begins her next journey, and you as well. Cowboys on Saturday night against Jacksonville. First fake game of the season. I will be there to watch Brandon Aubrey miss point after attempts for all of your Cowboys coverage needs. Check us out on StarTelegram.com. For Cowboys Overtime, he's Clarence Hill. I'm Matt Kingle. Candy Bolden. Everybody else, we'll see you next week.